Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Blue Eyes Talks. I'm Blue, and I like to talk about figure skating. Before this video starts properly, I'd like to give a warning that I'm going to be touching on some very delicate topics. I will give further warnings throughout the video, but if you feel that this might not be something you can watch, please click away and take care of your own mental health. In today's video, I'm going to cover Gabriella Papadakis' book. Gabriella is, at the time of recording, one of the reigning ice dance Olympic champions, and she used to skate with Guillaume for France. Gabriella's book is only available in French at the moment, so following some amazing Twitter translations, I'm going to cover 4 excerpts that I think we need to discuss, as they highlight a lot about the state of ice dance. Once again, these excerpts are going to touch on some very heavy topics such as abuse and also sexual assault, so if this is something you can't and don't want to discuss, then please do click away and take care of your mental health. I'm going to now read the first excerpt, which I've summarised as the expectation to perform. It's quite long, so please bear with me. I've got the link to all of the threads in the description. We are known for our natural chemistry, and it's funny to see how quickly it disappears when I'm only putting in half the effort. There is no longer any synchronization in training. Guillaume gets annoyed. The coaches keep telling me to follow along. They don't understand why we've lost our magic. I stay there, silent, wondering how long it will be before they realise that Guillaume is just as responsible as I am. One day, right in the middle of the choreography work, it hits me. I'm invisible. I'm standing right next to Marie, France and Guillaume. I could talk, dance, even scream, nothing. They act as if I don't exist. They address me only to give me orders. This isn't new. I already experienced it with my mother in Clermont, then with our dance teacher in Lyon, and now in Montreal with Marie, France. Guillaume seems to be their only point of contact. Usually, I end up telling myself it's because of me, that my ideas must be bad. But this time, the absurdity strikes me full force. When Guillaume repeats what I suggested 20 minutes earlier, it suddenly becomes the idea of the century. So I stay quiet. Same outcome every time. After a few tries, I stop talking. I wait for instructions. Resigned. That very evening, we meet at Guillaume's place with all the coaches to discuss our comeback. I expected a serious meeting, but it begins with a full hour of mockery, first aimed at the other coaches, then at the skaters from the club. I'm stunned. I spent too much time away. I've lost the habit of this ordinary nastiness. I try to steer the conversation back to us, professionally. They look at me strangely and ask why I've become so serious. When the topic of music comes up, I suggest we change things up a bit, dare something different. Guillaume doesn't even raise his eyes. He snickers, then continues the discussion as if I hadn't said anything. Marie France, in a condescending yet sharp tone, says, "It's too late to change. You have to give people what they expect from you. Classical, slow, emotional music." I stay quiet, watching them continue the discussion, decide on our career as if I weren't there. On the drive back, I think about a strategy. Should I call Patrice and ask him to present my ideas as his? Guillaume would surely listen better. That night, I wake up in anxiety. What exactly am I getting myself into? The next day, we go to couples therapy. Guillaume tells me he's exhausted, that I'm no longer taking any initiative. He doesn't feel I'm invested in the work, and he feels like he's completely alone. I'm in disbelief. I tell him I'm struggling to invest myself in the work when everyone ignores me. He answers that no, truly no one ignores me. I breathe in, breathe out. Calmly, I give examples. Yeah, okay, yes, we ignore you, but it's because your ideas are bad, and we would tell you, but you have huge ego issues. You don't know how to take criticism, so we're forced to ignore you. I can't say anything anymore. I'm out of breath. Is it true? Do I have ego issues? Am I narcissistic? My breathing speeds up. Guillaume is so calm that I look insane next to him. The therapist tries to make me answer, but the words won't escape me. She keeps asking me how I feel. Guillaume hides, behind his gentle demeanour, an exasperation that I can sense, masking a "see what I have to deal with every day." I'm caught between the two of them. They push me to speak and I can't. I want to leave. After a moment, I burst into tears, and it comes out despite myself. I'm afraid of you. I hadn't even admitted it to myself yet. Guillaume walks out of the room and locks himself in the bathroom. I leave. From that segment, it feels from an outsider's perspective as if women in ice dance are expected to perform as an accessory to their partner and nothing else. At the very least, in the partnership between Gabriella and Guillaume, it sounds like he was the ideas person, he was the person that the coaches would talk to, and she was just expected to follow orders, which is totally unhealthy. This leads on to another point that I'm going to touch on later in the video about the treatment of female ice dancers. The final part of that section, where Gabriella says that she's afraid of him, honestly breaks my heart. It's awful that she should have to work with someone that she's terrified of. I also find the part where she discusses how Guillaume and their coaches were mocking other skaters at their rink honestly disgusting. Of course, having a rivalry with someone that you train with is normal. We've seen that work out in healthy ways, for example, Yuzuru Hanyu and Javier Fernandez, but to be mocking them is ridiculous. And if the skater alone was mocking them, that would be bad, but for the coaches to join in and find it funny when they're meant to be, coaching some of these skaters is horrendous. It shows favoritism and horrendous unprofessionalism. And all the while, Gabriella was expected to either join in or to just sit quietly. The second excerpt I'm going to read focuses on the treatment of female ice dancers. I'm in total panic. I have to skate with him today, and I've just made him furious. On the bus to the rink, I sit far away from him so I won't have to meet his eyes. I'm afraid of his reaction. I can see him up ahead, having fun with other skaters. He looks calm, thank God. On the ice, I make friendly gestures to try and soothe him. He completely ignores me. He acts as if I'm not even there. Our music starts. We have to skate together so the lighting crew can learn our choreography before the show. I begin the routine, lying on a table, and I'm supposed to roll into his arms. I roll, but he isn't there to catch me, and I almost fall. Dismayed, I skate after him to continue the choreography. He must have thought I didn't want to skate with him today. I didn't want to tell him. He must have misunderstood. I try to reach him, but he avoids me every time. At one specific moment in the program, I arch backwards, balancing on one foot with one leg stretched forwards, off balance so he can lift me and take me into the next movement. Once again, he ignores me, and I barely manage to avoid falling. I'm thrown off by the lack of synchronization. I rush off the ice, shaken, and lock myself in the dressing room. I'm overwhelmed by a terror I can't explain. My body already knows something my mind isn't ready to admit yet. The way that Guillaume is described as treating Gabriella in this section is honestly appalling to me. For someone who's meant to be his partner, I think he's treating her as a disposable item. And that brings me on to the point that I want to make about female ice dancers. I've made this point before when discussing solo ice dance and how its rising is going to be wonderful for women in the sport, because currently there are so few male ice dancers, and compared to how many female ice dancers there are, that male ice dancers feel they can get away with so much more. If you know that your partner relies on you for a career, and you can walk away and find a new partner straight away, you have so much more power and freedom to do what you want, even if that means, as we've heard in the excerpt, treating your partner horribly and almost causing them to fall multiple times. We've also heard about it in the treatment of female pairs skaters, where sometimes their partners would mess up the throws, where the woman is so vulnerable if they were annoyed at them that day. To me, this behaviour is also very childish from Guillaume. Instead of having an adult conversation with Gabriella and sitting down to explain what's wrong, he's ignoring her and honestly leaving her out to dry, and it's unprofessional for the lighting crew as well, who need to know their choreography so that they can sort the show out. Female ice dancers are treated so poorly in this sport, and combined with the previous clip where we heard about the coaches mocking skaters with Guillaume, it's no surprise that abuse allegations are not taken seriously. And that's even if a skater feels comfortable coming out with these allegations. Because if in the middle of your career, if you're relying on this man for your career, would you be brave enough to stand up against them, knowing that it could cost you everything? This third excerpt I'm going to discuss is about the mental coach and some of the other coaching within the Ice Academy of Montreal. I'm not entirely sure who is being spoken about as the mental coach. The tweet I got this from says Cheryl Turner, but some of the replies say someone called Stephanie, so I'm sorry if there's confusion, I'm also not sure. As a partner of the school, alongside Marie, France and Patrice, she holds the position of a mental coach that is not neutral. Her role is as much to reinforce the institution as to support the athletes. By becoming everyone's coach, she is aware of everything. The doubts we have about ourselves disappear, but the doubts we might have toward the coaches or the school fade away as well. She helps us detach from our limiting thoughts, which gives us an incredible confidence before stepping onto the ice. This work also distances us, slowly but inevitably, from ourselves. Little by little, the narrative takes shape. We are in the best training centre in the world, and staying there is the only way to become the best. There is no other option. The informal conversations we have with her, with the coaches and our teammates, are always an opportunity to mock athletes from other training centres. They can't skate, their programs are boring, their costumes ridiculous, their coaches abusive. Many couples come to Montreal to benefit from coaching perceived as more caring. The centre presents itself as a refuge, welcoming skaters who have been hurt by their past experiences. It's true, it's better than in the vast majority of centres. However, oppressive dynamics continue, less visible, more insidious. If the girls are no longer weighed in the morning in front of everyone, they receive healthy recipe suggestions by message instead. If they are no longer told they are too fat, they are asked not to practice certain sports that would build up their arms too much. I regularly receive photos of hairstyles and makeup, accompanied by, "You would look pretty like that," a roundabout way of saying that my appearance is not acceptable. Guillaume and the coaches even arrange makeup lessons for me, presented as an experience they are offering me. Ashamed of not managing to meet beauty standards, I force myself to accept. There's also a second excerpt in this thread that I'm going to include now. It's separated by a little ellipse, so it's later on in the book, but I think it's still worth discussing. Our training schedules are sent to us by email the night before, often around 8 p.m, sometimes later. As long as we have not received the message, it is impossible to know what time we will go to sleep, and impossible to plan any activity outside. To request adjustments, we have to send, more than a week in advance, an email listing our hours of unavailability, school, work, medical appointments, gym. We have to justify every absence, and Patrice, who organises the schedules, decides whether our request is legitimate. After that, the sessions are assigned randomly, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Nothing is predictable. Only one email per couple is allowed to give an excuse, so I have to coordinate with Guillaume, which makes me uncomfortable. I don't like revealing the details of how I manage my time. Very quickly, I stop making appointments and organising anything, in order to spare myself that burden. When I try to express my discomfort with this system, the lack of private life, the anxiety caused by not knowing how my days will unfold, I am made to understand that the problem comes from my lack of seriousness. These two excerpts make me feel very uncomfortable. and I think it's because the Ice Academy of Montreal has, as Gabriella put it, the image of being a refuge for skaters. The fact that they are one of the healthier training centres honestly is horrendous, because if this is how bad a good system is, how bad are the other systems? Being taught not to question what's going on in your training centre is really poor and honestly very, as Gabriella said, insidious. It comes back to the earlier points where ice dancers are just told to comply, to behave, to do what they're told. And skaters being told not to question what's going on in their own lives and their own training honestly reminds me of, for example, a Terry Tudboridze's training centre, and we know what goes on behind the scenes there. Also, they are still exhibiting the same behaviours as other centres, just in a much less obvious way. They're not getting the scales out, but they're still monitoring their skaters' weight, sometimes in an unhealthy way. They are still questioning their looks, things like that. And then with the second clip, it makes me so uncomfortable that one of the top ice dance schools in the world is treating their skaters' schedules so weirdly. The scheduling also confuses me as someone who has worked in, for example, jobs where you're given a rota for the month. How do they not sort something else like that, taking into account the different competitions that skaters will have and things like that? Surely it would also make their lives easier to do it in advance so they have more time to sort out any potential absences. It also stops their skaters being well rested, which honestly could make some of their manipulation tactics much easier to enforce. You're not going to be on the ball if you're so tired. I also don't like how it's only one request per team. You can still train on your own as an ice dancer if you need to. Guillaume does not need to know the details of Gabriella's absences in the same way that Gabriella does not need to know the details of Guillaume's absences. I understand that they are top-level athletes competing at the Olympics and World Championships, but to imply that they are missing things because of a lack of seriousness is just wrong. Before this last excerpt, I'm going to give another more specific trigger warning. This excerpt will discuss Nikolai Sorensen and, of course, sexual assault. Please take care of yourself and don't listen if you think that this will trigger you. So this is the fourth excerpt. I quickly finish my meal, then lock myself in my room to look up the articles on Google. Skater NS accused of sexual assault by a former American skater. The article even includes a description of the assault. I feel nauseous, and I have to put my phone down before I can even make it to the end. The next day, I receive an email from the coaches. They sent it to all the skaters at the training centre. The message asks us not to mention the subject in the media. No word of support for the people concerned. I need to talk to someone about it, but I'm afraid of ending up in front of people defending him, so I say nothing. During the show in Italy, I tell Guillaume that I find it worrying that young girls, aged 12 or 13, share the same locker room as us, and that I'm considering bringing it up with the organisation. Guillaume nods, and for a moment I think we're on the same wavelength. Then he adds, "Yeah, it's super stressful for me. Those girls could make false accusations and I could end up in deep trouble." Suddenly I understand we're not on the same side. A year ago, I told him I was considering filing a complaint against one of my attackers. He answered that if I did, he wouldn't want to skate with me anymore. At the time, I thought it was because he didn't want to go through such a process to protect his mental health. I respected that choice and gave up. But now I see an irreconcilable divide between our value systems. Back in Montreal, I push open the locker room door to put on my skates. I run into N, sitting with his partner. He is not doing anything in particular. He smiles, looking relaxed. He denies everything. I leave immediately, stunned. A flood of images and numbers assaults me on the ground, trying to process my assaults, the money swallowed up by therapy, the injuries that will never disappear, my friends in the same state, changed forever. I see us talking about it, crying, then shrugging at the idea of justice. We know there isn't any. Even the rare people who gather enough support and evidence to press charges aren't believed. False accusations represent only a tiny minority of cases. The real figure is that of the victims. Most will never file a complaint, and among those who do, almost all will see their case dismissed. And he's at practice, calm. He tells anyone who will listen how difficult this moment is for him, how someone malicious and jealous is ruining his reputation. That section was incredibly difficult for me to read. I honestly really feel for Gabriella in this. I don't really have anything else that I feel I can add that would give any value to what she's already put into words. Because the truth is that false accusations are such a small minority compared to those that are never vocalized or not believed. And honestly, I think one of the hardest parts for me to read there was that Gabriella thought for a moment that Guillaume was on her side and agreed with her, and then she realised just how vastly different their worries were. Gabriella was worried that those 12 and 13-year-old girls in their locker room could be hurt, and Guillaume was worried that his reputation could be hurt. And the accused skater to be laughing as if nothing has happened, knowing that he has the support of IAM and the silence of all of the others for fear of losing their training centre, that's terrifying. I was never the biggest fan of Papadakis and Cizeron when they competed. I always preferred skaters like Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer, and then other teams later on, like Hubble and Donahue. But hearing Gabriella's own words on her experience and seeing the amazing things she's doing after retirement, I honestly give her my full support. Gabriella has been removed from NBC as a commentator for the Olympics due to the book, and apparently Guillaume Cizeron has sent her a cease and desist after all she's written about him. All that these actions have done is made me want an English translation even more. Gabriella is one of the people encouraging same-sex ice dance and is pushing the sport of solo ice dance through her amazing exhibition programs. Since her retirement, she's torn down everything she's known, and she's building herself back up again, piece by piece, through solo dance, dance with Madison Hubble, and through music. I hope that by writing her experiences, Gabriella has been able to find some closure and some peace, knowing that she has the support of people out there. I truly hope that Gabriella's book, along with the testimonies of skaters like Ashley Wagner, for example, will drive change in the sport, because truly it needs to change. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that it was informative. If there is a topic you'd like me to cover, please do let me know in the comments or on social media. My card with my links is in the description as always. Thank you for watching. I'm so sorry I sound a little bit ill. I am ill. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!